Hello, everyone. Welcome back to Toilets to Titles. My name is Justin Stevens, and I'm with you again for another team-by-team breakdown. Tonight's episode is the Carolina Panthers, and I got to tell you, I'm pretty excited about the guest. I struggled for like 2 months to try to find some guests to come on this show. Then out of nowhere, I get a message from Carolina Chris here. He saw our YouTube show episode. He said, I'm a big Panther fan. I want to come on. And then I was shocked to get a comment back or a response back from the Panther Nation. Guys, Panther Nation is in the house. And I've been watching their YouTube channel for this past week or two, and this YouTube channel is dynamite. It's literally out of this world. They've got these little sub-channels set up. They've got some amazing guests. They've got interviews on there. I'm going to have to become a Patreon just to be able to see the full interviews of some of them, but you guys showed just enough of those clips to entice me, I got to tell you. So you're doing a great job over there. So those guests down there, I'm going to introduce them first. It's David Rhodes at Champ D 1012 and Rashad Beard. Again, Panther Nation Podcast. That's at Panther Nation PC. One of the best YouTube channels that you'll ever find. Guys, I'm not just talking it up. Trust me. Go check it out. You'll see the work for yourself. But I want to say I appreciate you guys for coming on. And just, is there anything else that you guys are working on right now that you want to prop up?
Yeah. Let me just, first of all, thank you for the invite, man. I feel obligated to kind of help other folks build their channels up because we know what it takes. It's hard work, dedication to get these channels built up. So anytime we can help another YouTuber out, we always help out and put those reach out and help somebody. So no problem with that. No problem with coming on the show, especially if we're available. Anytime we'll come on. Real quick, I do want to say to those.
Oh, we lost Rashad.
Uh-oh.
He was about to drop real heavy, too.
Yeah, he is. Yo, he froze solid, too, man. That's hilarious.
Yeah. What about you, David? Anything you guys are working on right now?
Well, like right now, typically we typically get our growth from subscribers on the YouTube channel, mainly during the off season. So this is where we typically shine. So we're trying to get to 11,000 subs. We're almost there. We're getting real close. Shout out to Jared, who's part of the PNP, and he's a fellow Patreon. But just follow the channel, man. It's going to get more action packed as we go, and we'll get Rashad back at some point because I know he's about to say something important.
That's Jared you're talking about right there, saying that PNP.
Yeah.
In the chat.
Yep, that's my guy, Jared. Shout out to Jared.
Right on.
So
thanks, Jared.
He'll be back.
Right on.
But overall, man, I think as Rashad was saying, appreciate the invite, man. Whenever it's time to talk Panthers football, we in there if we can make it. So this should be a fun conversation.
Right on. Absolutely. Well, before we get started with that, I want to introduce Carolina Chris. Carolina Chris is a fan of the YouTube channel, reached out to me through email, and here he is. So it's great to meet you. And is there anything out there particular that you're working on or anything you want to talk about or prop up?
I'm just saying I appreciate you responding, letting me come on. I've been following this series. It's a great series. Started checking you guys out during the season for fantasy content and saw you talking about my Panthers. So keep pounding. Shout out to Sam Howell. All right, QB1 next year. It's really all I got to say. Can't wait to talk some Panthers, baby.
Right on. Outstanding. Well, while we're waiting on Rashad here, we're going to go ahead and get started with the conversation. But actually, you know what? Since we're still waiting on him, I'll go ahead and knock out all the other stuff that we got to talk about. Guys, you can listen to our normal, typical weekly show on Apple Podcasts, YouTube, Facebook, Podbean, and Spotify, and of course When a Family Breaks, which is our Facebook page where we buy and sell cards and memorabilia. Also, please make sure you hit that subscribe button down there at the bottom and hit that like button to help us out. We really greatly appreciate the support. And don't forget that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts. You hit that 5-star review on Apple Podcasts, screenshot it, DM it to us, and we will put you in the running for a free entry into the Frankenstank Listeners League, a crazy 3-copy league that is unlike any other rules in fantasy football that you've ever known. So trust me, it's wild. And we have most of our returning from last season, plus a heck of a lot more. So anyhow, and then finally, of course, the Patreon. I keep forgetting that because it's still relatively new, but the Patreon to help us out too. We really appreciate you. All right. So the question, I'm going to line it up. Real softball, easy question for you guys here. And I'll start with you, David. it's Sam Darnold, man. When any outsiders like myself that might be watching the episode, guys that aren't necessarily tuned in and plugged into the Panthers on a everyday basis like you guys, we want to know about Sam Darnold. We want to know if he's the real deal. We want to know if he's the quarterback of the future or if he's just the same Sam Darnold that we saw play for the Jets, and we're wondering why they even made this move to get him. So what is your stand on Sam Darnold at this point?
You know, some people call me a pessimist, but I'm more of a realist, and I think Rashad is as well. But from my standpoint, I think that we're banking on a lot of things to make Sam Darnold a star, right? So we're banking that the running game is going to be better with us. We're banking that the wide receiver core is going to be better with us. We're banking that the defense will be better with us. And we're also banking that the offensive line is going to be better with us. But right now, I think the big thing that we need to fix from Carolina's side is our offensive line, and we haven't done that yet. And because of that, that's going to be a dilemma about Sam Darnold. Like, I think when Sam Darnold came in, it was like, oh, he's coming from the Jets. Jets didn't do anything to help the guy. That's why he had to move. And yeah, Carolina has offensive weapons, but we still have an offensive line problem that we haven't taken the time to address properly, because we still need a left tackle.
Right on. So pretty much without a rebuilt offensive line, you're kind of worried that we're going to see a lot of the same kind of Sam Darnold.
I am. But that being said, I think if our defense is improved like I expect it to be, if McCaffrey's back healthy, we should be a better team. But I still need to see what Sam Darnold is. Like, I think people are automatically assuming that we get all these things around Sam and he's going to be this top 10 quarterback, and I don't see that. I think I don't need him to be top 10. I just need him to be average. That's all I need him to be. Average Sam. Hashtag average Sam. That's all I need.
Fair enough. Whoa, somebody's shaking their head over there. Rashad, we got you back.
Yeah, my apologies. We got a storm going on over here, so my power blipped for a second, so my router had to reboot. So my apologies.
No worries. Were you shaking your head about that, or at what David was saying?
No, yeah, I disagree with Dave. I think average Sam Darnold is the worst thing that could happen for the Carolina Panthers. I'm optimistic. I think I'm hoping. My right brain is telling me I want I want Sam Darnold to be a top 10 quarterback. I understand it's maybe not realistic, but I think him coming in here, get a breath of fresh air. He has a second chance. But I think him being average is the worst thing that could happen to him, to the Carolina Panthers, to the franchise, because that allows us to stick with him for another year, to stick with more average, and then it prevents us from going on to get a actual franchise quarterback. It's the same thing we dealt with Teddy. It's the same thing. We're sticking with average, and average is not where we need to be in the long term. Average quarterbacks, unless you have a top 2 defense, is not going to get you anywhere. And our defense is going to be good. They're not going to be that good next year. They're not going to be top 2 defenses in the league.
Here's my thing. What are the better odds right now? Top 2 defense or top 10 Sam?
I don't think I think it's 50. That's about the same odds.
Nah, man. If I had to pick one, I'm thinking top 2 defense. Because I don't see top 10 Sam. Because we've never seen a top 10 Sam. Like, we haven't seen a game.
I agree.
Top 10 Sam. You know what I'm saying?
I agree with you, bro. But I'm not looking at, again, we get into this argument all the time, but I'm not with, and everybody's saying, like, the entire fan base is saying it. Yo, we just need Sam to be average. Because they're thinking this year, right? They're thinking Panther success this year.
But, bro,
but what that does is.
I got a question.
Yep, go ahead.
If he's average, based upon what we're saying they have around him at the offensive line, doesn't that say he's a little above average? If he doesn't have much protection, okay, and he makes DJ Moore look good, and we're confident in DJ Moore after this season, and even though Sam looks average, if he gets the ball to him, Terrace Marshall, McCaffrey plays well, if Sam looks average behind that offensive line, are we projecting that he's going to look better than average if he's got a better offensive line next year?
Potentially.
Could be. It could be, but again, I just don't think that you have a situation where you have Sam Darnold on his 5th-year option deal, right? So there's no time to waste. We can't play games with this. We need to know whether he's the guy or not. So I need him to go out there and dominate. Like, no, F that average stuff, man. We want him to go out there and be the man. Go out there, show you got some balls. Put all that jet stuff behind you and ball out, bro. You got, again, his offensive line is going to be sus. I agree with you. I'm the biggest proponent of the offensive line and fixing that. We got a whole episode talking about the offensive line and how bad historically it's been for the Panthers. Whole episode. So I get it. Left tackle, non-existent. Right tackle, hell, we won't extend it for some reason. So I get it. It's bad. The offensive line is not good. But at the same time, he has the everything else. If he gets a healthy Christian McCaffrey for a full 17, he has everybody else around him. Everything else should be in place for this dude to be good. And I'm hoping, I'm a realist too. I understand that there's a chance he's going to be ass, but I want him to go out there and be good and put the team on your back sometimes. Because last year we didn't see that, right? The defense, the back half of the season was really good, right? They brought it together, and we couldn't quite get it together. But we need Sam to go out there and win us some games. We can't just rely on our defense. Our defense is not going to be a top 2 defense.
It's not. But my thing is this: if we're looking at Sam Darnold, right? I think the fan base has to temper their expectations. We got folks out here thinking that this guy's going to freaking be dynamite.
Nobody's going off what
who's
thinking that? What? Dave? Who's thinking that?
There's folks that think he's going to be a top tier quarterback.
Well, those people are strictly looking at draft capital. They're looking at draft capital and they're projecting that he's that player, but he's not that player that was picked at that spot. He's the guy who was playing for the Jets last season.
Last 3 seasons.
Yeah, like they just want to use the Jets as the excuse.
Right.
Yeah, and no, it's Adam Gates more than the Jets when you sit down and think about it. Like I think folks are making that comparison to Ryan Tannehill.
I said
we have to have that discussion another day. We need to have that discussion about, do you think he has Ryan Tannehill type talent?
I think he, looking back at his film, over the last few years, he's done something. He's got a way of making things happen at times. He's got some magic. Darnold has some magic. He makes some plays. He's not consistent enough. I think.
Yeah, I was going to say he's looked clueless at times too.
But here's the thing: when you do something a few times at the NFL level, it's the coach's job to get it out of you consistently, right?
Okay, so let me jump in here real, because I get that, right? And again, I want Sam Darnold to be successful. Trust me.
And I don't
want him to be.
We both do. I do too. I give him a hard time, but
let me say this though. Sam Darnold has had a problem with turnovers before he got to Adam Gase. So let's pump the brakes. I'm putting everything on Gase, because it's not. Go back to his USC days, bro. He was not that good then, and probably got overdrafted. I don't like when people say, "Oh, he got drafted in the top 3 or he got picked at 3, so he should be great." That's not how it works. Quarterbacks especially get overdrafted all the time, so we can't just go based off his draft capital or where he was picked. That's not how it works. But he has had issues going back to college. So let's not sit up and pretend like Adam Gase is the sole issue. He's got some things he needs to work on. So let's be real about it.
Right on. Hey, I don't want to make this a total Sam Darnold episode, but that was some good stuff right there. That's exactly what I was looking for when I brought you guys on. So I appreciate that. But David, you were mentioning that defense earlier, and from everything I look at from last year's stats, they were kind of bottom half of the league in a lot of stuff on defense. So is that all just numbers and fodder? And
I think there was a lot of factors. For one, they lost their best defensive player to retirement. I mean, Luke Kuechly is arguably was one of the best defensive players in the NFL. Definitely the best linebacker in the NFL, right?
Can't argue with it all, bro.
Yeah. So where we lost Luke to retirement. The team didn't really have much of an offseason. New coach, new defensive coordinator coming from college. So he was trying to get his new scheme in. When you look at what that defense was and the pieces that they had, didn't really have that much to work with. It was a very young nucleus, and the defense got better over time. So, first half of the season, it was brutal. And Teddy Bridgewater took the brunt of the fact of how bad that defense was because he wasn't able to close game. But the reality of the defense was giving up everything. The house, the car, the boat, they gave up the world in that first half of that season. But then over time, they improved significantly over time. They learned the scheme.
Yeah.
Phil Snow, and I said this before, I gave Phil Snow a bad rap at the beginning of the season. I wanted him out of here early.
He did.
But by the end of the season, that was my guy because I saw progress within that defense. That's not something I saw on the offensive side. That's not something I saw from the head coaching side. But from the defensive side, I saw Snow coaching. He was coaching. Yeah. And that's why I laid off on Snow because he's been doing this thing, man. And then when you start thinking about the pieces that he had, what he did, it's kind of a miracle in itself.
Yeah, we had a really young defense. You think about Jeremy Chin, Derek Brown; those guys were thrusted out there immediately, and we had a lot of rookies. In fact, we drafted all defensive guys, right? So our entire investment in the draft went to the defenses. They were all young. Again, like Dave said, they were rookie head coaches, all that stuff. But at the same time, we had some injuries too. K'Wan Short went down. Mm-hmm. Zach Kerr also went down. We had Eli Apple. He went down before the season started. So we had Troy Pride out there starting week 1. So we had a lot of injuries on the defensive side of the ball. So that's one. But I want to put more emphasis on this. The second half of the season, that defense was much better. Like it was night and day. So when you talk about stats, and I'm a stats guy, I'm a numbers guy too. But I also like to, you got to pass the eye test. I got to match the numbers with the eye test. And the defense on the back end of the season was really good. And they compensated. And a lot of it fell on Teddy. That's why, it's a what have you done for me lately league, right? So when you see the defense stepping up and then you see Teddy Bridgewater not compensating, you're like, oh, man, Teddy's the issue. But if, like Dave said earlier, you flip it in the beginning of the season, the offense was clicking on all cylinders. Defense was garbage. But again, like I said, it flipped at the halfway point. Defense took over. Phil Snow stopped running those 3-man fronts. We saw that way too much. He actually started blitzing more. So Phil Snow did a good job of adjusting, man. I'm excited. And shout out to Morgan Fox. We talked to Morgan Fox this offseason. He definitely G-teched us for talking about Phil Snow. We were giving Phil Snow the shit earlier. And he said, "No, don't talk about Phil Snow." So shout out to Morgan Fox, shout out to Phil Snow. We're looking forward to our defense. I think our defense is going to be top 10 for sure. You'll see a big leap in our defense this year.
I think Jeremy Chin, man, ascending player. You bring in a dog like J.C. Horn. Kyle Pitts goes to Atlanta. Who does Kyle Pitts say was the toughest guy he faced in college? It's J.C. Horn right there, and that's big praise coming from a big player. Also, we spoke about Ryan Tannehill, comparing him to Sam Darnold. I'm going to talk about Hassan Reddick. What if Hassan Reddick is to the Panthers what Shaq Barrett was to Tampa Bay? He comes in last year, best year of his career, 12.5 sacks. Now we have him out there. We got Brian Burns, hopefully taking a step. Gross Matos possibly taking a step. If we can get some pass rush, because I think Shaq Thompson's a little overrated. I don't really think we have a Mike. Denzel Perryman coming out of Miami. Looked good, looked like a thumper, but he hasn't really been able to stay healthy for more than 12 games this season. I don't think he's a guy we can rely on. So I think we need to look offensive line next year. I think we got to look linebacker next year, but I do think Reddick helps. I think J.C. Horn is going to be – I don't think we're going to have to worry about his side of the field, but what I do worry about is pass interference. He's aggressive. He's physical. That might have went over well in college. He's a little handsy. I think he's going to have to adjust his game a little bit so he could pass off into into this level at the NFL again, because he's a little too aggressive, and I think he's going to get called. But, man, I think Derek Brown, he's a dog. We should expect him to take a step. So I think there's a lot of promise with this young defense, and I'm really excited about it. I think they could be top 10.
Yeah, just to add to that, most cornerbacks do struggle when they come out of college. That transition is really tough. So we do expect J.C. Horn to struggle just a tad coming out. But at the end of the season, man, he's gonna be really good. He's got a bright future ahead of him. Also brought in A.J. Bouye, who they're trying to move to nickel. Doesn't make much sense to me. I know why they're doing it, because Dante Jackson is on his contract year, trying to get him paid. I get that. But that secondary, much improved. Moved Jeremy Chin back to free safety a little bit more often than he played last year. And also, we brought in Daquan Jones from Tennessee. I think that's a big add to the interior of the defensive line. Pair him up with Derek Brown. We're going to be stacked, bro. I mean, it's going to be like NASCAR packages all day with Brian Burns, Hassan Reddick, reunited with his college coaches. He knows the system already. It's going to be good, man. This defense, man, I'm telling you, if there's anything to be excited about for the Carolina Panthers, it's going to be that defense.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
Good stuff.
I'm looking forward. That's the main thing I'm looking forward to. I think everybody keeps talking about the Sam Darnold, what he's going to do. I'm not even thinking about that, bro. I want to see how this defense is going to be. Because I know if our defense is stellar, We don't need to worry about Sam as much. I'm telling you. That's where it goes back to me saying that an average Sam is going to be fine if that defense is clicking. I know Rashad doesn't like it because he knows that ain't going to get us to a Super Bowl, but average quarterbacks have won Super Bowls, man.
Yeah, absolutely. They've also had good defenses too. So, really good defenses. Yeah. Not just good, great defense, elite defenses. Yeah, that's what we need. That's what we need.
Fair enough. So, guys, like I said before, these breakdowns aren't typically fantasy football centric, but our show itself is. So this next question is going to kind of lean into both because as fantasy football players, everybody's looking at that tight end room as a potential late round tight end guy. But even on the gridiron, how important is the tight end position for a team like the Carolina Panthers with a quarterback that could potentially lean on his tight ends a little bit more? Because you guys already had Ian Thomas, you brought in Dan Arnold and Tommy Tremble. So that tight end room, it looks a little packed with a bunch of guys that are kind of the same kind of talent. So, like I said, for one, is that really an important position for that team? And for two, if it is, who's it going to be?
Well, I'll take this one since it's kind of fantasy centric. From the standpoint of the tight end position right now, in my opinion, from a fantasy perspective, the best thing you're going to have is a TD dependent tight end. And I think if you're going to look at a TD dependent tight end, the guy that you want to get is Dan Arnold. Now, that being said, he is not on the top of my heap. I don't think he's a draftable guy, in my opinion. I think he's a guy, if you really need a tight end, he's a streamer more than anything else. You go through the stat lines about who's terrible with tight ends in the red zone, and then maybe you throw in Dan Arnold if Carolina happens to play one of those terrible teams type of situation. I think the problem is about the target distribution, right? Like the way the target distribution is going to be for Carolina, at best, the tight end will be the fourth option. And even then I can argue the fifth.
That might be pushing it. Yeah, I was going to say that might be pushing
I can argue the fifth, right? It's probably more the fifth than the fourth. The fourth is being optimistic, but realistically it's probably five. Because I got McCaffrey and 3 wide receivers ahead of him.
Right. Fair
Can I move this from tight end talking fantasy? I know I don't got much to say other than that on the tight end.
This is your show.
Speaking of fantasy, if we're going to talk long term, I want to talk about a guy that I think you should stash, and that's Shi Smith. I think that cat's a dog. Every year we see players come out of the Senior Bowl and produce and get a lot of praise there. And right now, obviously, Terrace Marshall was picked higher than him, right, coming out of LSU. But we got questions with Robbie Anderson long-term. We got questions with DJ Moore long-term. It could be Terrace Marshall and Shi Smith a few years down the road. I mean, Shi Smith was 5th in the SEC in 2020 with 57 receptions. Marshall was 12th with 48. They both done it in the best conference in football. He's savvy. He's a great route runner. He's physical. He's good at tracking the football. You know, I really like Shi Smith, and I don't think that guy is going to be it's not going to be too hard to get him. I don't think a lot of people are on him. And again, that's not this year. I don't think Shi Smith.
You're talking.
I'm projecting.
You're talking dynasty.
Yes.
You're talking dynasty, and I agree. But you could probably get him at low real estate because there's so many other dogs at the receiver position.
Yes.
For dynasty this year. But you're literally going to have him sit on the bench because I mean, there's some people that don't think the guy's going to make the team. I think he is, but there might be folks. There's some folks out there that are saying that he might not show up the team.
I mean, if he doesn't, there might be somewhere else where he lands because I liked what I saw from.
Yeah, Shi is dope. I think Shi has some special teams opportunities there. I think he's going to battle it out with Brandon Zylstra. That wide receiver room is really, it's tough. It is tough. I mean it's a lot of guys out there. It's going to be super competitive. May even keep 7 wide receivers this year. I don't know, but that room is loaded. I don't think we have any questions about DJ Moore long term. Maybe Robbie Anderson. I don't think he'll be around next year, especially if Terrace Marshall comes out, proves that he's healthy. Terrace Marshall is going to be that guy. I love Terrace Marshall. I got his jersey on, for God's sakes, and I love him, man. I think he's going to be dominant moving forward, but. As far as the tight end room, listen, we had historic low usage last year with tight ends. I mean, Ian Thomas was it. And I agree with Dave, even fantasy or not, I think Dan Arnold I think he's going to be really good in this offense. He has that red zone threat that we did not have from a tight end perspective last year. Our red zone offense was complete trash last year. And so I think Dan Arnold, even Terrace Marshall in some instances is going to help out that red zone a lot. So I'm looking forward to those guys, a lot of touchdowns. I think, again, wide receiver room is thick, and that the tight ends improved a lot.
Right on. Well, for my Scott Fish Bowl, for those of you that do know fantasy, I was able to pair up Sam Darnold with DJ Moore. So I'm really hoping that this works out. So Sam Darnold is my QB3, so that's not too bad, but it's a boomer bust play. But anyhow, let's switch back. Last question, and then I'll let you guys go. We try to keep these at a half hour or so I don't want to use up too much of your time. But last question I have here, every single fan of their team has some kind of level of expectation for their team for this year. Either they hit this goal and I'm happy, they do better and I'm ecstatic, or they don't hit this goal and I'm really upset. I want to know what that level is, what that line is. And especially, like, I know you two at the bottom are more realistic. And then I know Carolina Chris is an Uber fan. So like, I don't know what I'm about to get with this, but I want to know what that level of expectation is for your team this season.
Well, let me be clear. I am an Uber fan. I'm just a realist. Like I love Carolina. It's just, I gotta be realistic with it.
No, I see all the gear back there.
Oh yeah. So it's not, that ain't the issue. It's just, I gotta see.
All right. Well, then what's your expectation?
I mean,
say what you said on Monday, dog.
6 wins, bro. Like 6 wins, 6-11. That's what I'm seeing.
Wow.
I mean, I could see us sliding and getting some extras in, and maybe we end up 9-8, 8-9, something like that. But realistically, man, like, I think we have to temper expectations of what we expect out of Sam.
So in your mind, it's more of an improvement thing. You want to see improvement within the players, within the organization, within the coaching staff. You just want to see improvement.
Yeah, I do. But at the same time, I would like them to get more than 6 wins, but I just don't see more than 6. I think it's it's imperative that we start strong this year because the second half of the schedule isn't kind.
Yeah, so the first half of the schedule is pretty nice, though.
The first half is.
The first half is it starts good,
it's nice.
But then it's brutal on the back end.
You might get your 6 wins before the bye week.
But that's my point. Like, I could see a situation where we're out here getting these wins, and then the wheels just fall off at the end. Like Bucks twice, Buffalo, Miami. Like there's some tough games closing that season out, man.
Fair enough.
Because the Bucks are still the cream of the crop of the division. That doesn't change unless Tom Brady tears an ACL or 2.
So for me, I think, listen, this fan base we need a winning season.
We do.
9 wins is what we need. We need this, okay? Like we've been bad for a little bit here. We're used to the losing season and the winning season and the losing season and win. That needs to stop. I mean, we need to get a winning season under our belt. So I'm going 9 wins. We'll find them somewhere. I think it's going to be a grind. I need to see improvement across the board from coaching. I need to see better coaching. I need to see some front office moves being made. Taylor Moton signing a long-term deal will be a great start. That needs to happen.
One more day
tomorrow. Yeah, we got one more day. That needs to happen. But I mean, we need to start putting some winning seasons together. So I'm going 9 wins. I think that would be great. That would be ecstatic. Playoffs aside, even if we don't get a wild card, if we happen to get 9 wins, I would be satisfied.
Like, and I'm going to be clear with my 6-win prediction. If we walk in here with 6, if we end up with 6 wins next year, there might be some changes. I really do believe that there's going to be changes if we come, because you got to remember, and I've said this on my podcast numerous times. David Tepper hasn't seen a winning season since he's bought the team.
Bingo.
He hasn't seen a winning season. He's searching for that winning season.
That's fair.
So I think I'm expected to be over the top because I'm a super fan. But I'm going to keep it real. I think it's, I think the 9 wins is right about where we could be, especially with, I think the Falcons take a step back. And I think New Orleans takes a step back. I think we all know who's going to be number 1 in this division. I think everybody expects that. But I think second is up for grabs. But now that's expectations. Talking about what I think is good and what I think is bad. What I think is bad is if we're just above average and we end up missing out on Sam Howell because we won an extra 2 or 3 games. That's what's going to be bad. If we don't make the playoffs and we don't really take a step, and then we miss out we find out Sam Darnold isn't a franchise quarterback, and then we go ahead and we miss out on a franchise quarterback because we won games that didn't matter. That's what's going to make me upset because I think there's a few quarterbacks coming out next year, and I know Sam's probably going to go first, But I mean, there's Rattler. There's a few guys there that there's definitely going to be buzz out. There's Carson Strong from Nevada. So
Malik Willis.
Yeah, Malik Willis, right, from Liberty. If we aren't good, we're just average, and we miss out on a franchise quarterback, that's going to be disappointing.
Yeah, so tell me about it. We already did that this year. We missed out on Justin Fields.
And we missed out on a tackle, Vera Tucker. That's who we should have taken. I mean, J.C. Horn's a dog. We should have taken Vera Tucker.
But here's my thing, and I keep saying this to the fan base. If we're bad enough to take a quarterback that high, that means we're going to have a new head coach. Like that, simple as that. Like, and that's the way I feel. Some people think differently. I'm like, if you like Rule, you should be rooting for Sam to succeed. You should be rooting for Sam to succeed and not wanting a quarterback next year. If the fan base is screaming to take a quarterback next year, that tells me you want Rule gone.
What if we can get Rattler and Lincoln Riley?
That air raid offense.
Yo, after this, I'm gonna be honest with you, bro. After this college coach experiment, if we're out here firing Rule, I have no interest in them hiring another college coach.
I understand.
I have none, because I was and I've already set my line on how I felt about the selection. I was cool with Rule considering some of the other options, but there were better options out there we could have got.
Better than Joe Judge. I'm happier with Rule than Joe Judge, that's for sure.
Oh, I would have lost my shit if we got Joe Judge, but but Kevin Stefanski, Eric Bieniemy, I would have preferred those type of options. And it's making me sick again to remind me, because Kevin Stefanski just took the Browns to the playoffs.
Bieniemy's still available, man. Bieniemy's still out there,
which is insane to me.
1 year. I mean, we lose Rule, we get a quarterback, and we get Bieniemy. That's success.
I ain't mad at that, because we know he knows how to get quarterbacks right. I mean, he damn sure took care of a pretty damn good one that's sitting there right now, and Mr. Mahomes. So,
well, I tell you what, fellas, you guys hit the defense pretty hard. You guys hit Sam Darnold and his weapons pretty hard. We even touched on the offensive line and the coaching staff. I kind of feel like you guys hit it all in one 30-minute show. It was absolutely incredible. But I also want to remind everybody that if you have any more questions for these guys down here at the bottom, right there's their YouTube channel. Just go watch their videos, because they're hitting all of this pretty much daily, aren't you?
Yeah, we hit it. A lot of stuff. We got a lot of stuff going on, and as I was saying before, I froze up because of the weather. We got a lot of content, draft content, fantasy content. It's not just Panthers related content. We got a lot of Panthers stuff, but we do a lot of stuff around the draft. It's year round too. So come over, sub us up, man. We got a lot going on. So appreciate it.
Right
I
on.
subscribe today, baby.
Yeah, appreciate that, brother.
There you go. And then right here's the rest of their information down there at the bottom in case you guys want to follow them on Twitter. It is a good Twitter follow. They had a poll up earlier today about a contract. So I mean, it like he said, it's everything. It's not just it's not just what you would think. So, and then of course we want to say thanks to Carolina Chris, first time on the show. Appreciate your fandom. Appreciate you coming on and helping us out. You absolutely killed it. All right.
Thanks for having me. Keep pounding.
Right on. Have a great night, guys. Appreciate you.
All right, guys.
All right, man. Have a good one.